Hello again, Mark from Enchantment of Eternity here with another patron-only video, continuing my coverage of Star Trek the Animated Series and continuing on with Season 2. So in this video I will cover episodes 3 and 4 of Season 2, so almost there to the end. So I gotta say, I think Season 2 is a huge improvement over Season 1. It is a shame that there are only 6 episodes in Season 2 because I think they really, the writing really noticeably improved. I mean, the exception was that BIM episode I reviewed last month, which was a hot mess. But the first episode, The Pirates of Orion, was great, and these 2 episodes are also great. There's also even though I don't think these episodes are amazing or anything, don't get me wrong, they're still animated series, still ain't that great. But the writing has really noticeably improved. I really think they got their shit together this season. Anyway, let me get into the episodes. Let me start with episode 3 of Season 2, The Practical Joker. And this was a silly episode, and I remember not liking it very much. This is a really stupid premise where the Enterprise goes through a cloud, and so there's something weird entity takes over the ship that wants to play practical jokes on everyone. It's a really silly idea, and had they had this as a live-action original series episode, or in any of the other Star Trek shows, I would think this episode sucks because that's a stupid premise. But this is a kid's show, and as a kid's show, that's a perfectly viable premise. In fact, if I look at it through the lens of an animated cartoon kid's show, this is actually a really good episode. Now, again, I will grant you the premise is dumb, but for a kid's show, it's actually quite brilliant. It's actually there's a lot of cartoon vibes, silly stuff happen, the Enterprise play jokes on people. But here's the thing, here's why I actually really do like this episode, is because this, even more so, more so than any other episode of the animated series so far, you get a sense of the characters and the sense of character interactions. They're no longer just spouting exposition in in a really stilted way. Sir, this planet blah blah technobabble blah 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 blah, which is frankly what a lot of this show was. And instead, you get a lot of character interactions, even underused characters like Rex and Imres actually get a lot of play in this episode, and you feel like they're a community, they know each other. I love the scene where they're having dinner and they're celebrating the fact that they got away from the Romulans with their lives. That's felt real. That's something that we haven't really seen in much of the Star Trek shows, and it made me think of Enterprise, and I think maybe they did this in the original series as well. Not as much as Enterprise. Enterprise does this a lot, where they have dinner, the captain has dinner, but it's just with, the first officer and the second officer. And of course, in the original series case, it would be Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. In the Enterprise case, it would be Archer, T'Pol, and Trip. Although Enterprise did switch it up a little bit sometimes. I think they had Phlox in there a couple of times. They had Reed in there a couple of times. But really, it was a high class aristocracy, hoity-toity, ho-ho. Only the captain and first officer and my 2 best friends, because I'm going to snub everyone else. I'm too good to eat with everyone else. And I think that's mainly Enterprise's fault. I think maybe the original series did this a couple of times with Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Scotty, but here they have the whole senior staff. They got Uhura, they got Imres, they got freaking Rex. They're all having dinner together and celebrating, and I love that scene. I thought it was great. Now it was, their forks and stuff started going all floppy or whatever because the Enterprise was playing a practical joke, and when they went to take a drink, their cup melted and spilled all over them, and someone's playing a practical joke, and it's silly dialogue, but again, works for a kids show. And on top of that, like, some of the stuff I gotta admit I found kind of funny. Like, Enterprise is writing, Kirk is a jerk on Kirk's uniform. I'm sorry. I got a kick out of that one. And when Spock goes to put his eyes on that little, view thing he always looks at, although this was like a new one, he's like, he went to put his eyes on it, and there were like 2 black rings around his eyes, like, that was kind of funny, I must admit. So, but some of the other things where they put people's lives in danger, I mean, I think that's when the Enterprise took it a bit too far. And plus, like, the way it created a whole, like, inflatable Enterprise for the Romulans, that was silly. But again, kids show. One really notable thing about this episode is this is the first time we see a holodeck type thing. A lot of people forget this. They think, oh, the Next Generation kind of Farpoint is the first time we ever see a holodeck. And I've heard some people point out, actually, no. We've seen one in the animated series in this episode. This was sort of the precursor idea. Now, this wasn't exactly a holodeck. They called it the Rec Room. And it wasn't like the holodeck where it recreates people, but it just recreates scenery. Like, they can go to different places. They can go in the woods. They can go in, the forest. And then it turns to the Arctic or whatever. Which, the holodeck actually in kind of Frontport, that's what it was as well. When they first showed it, it's not until later when they actually had interactive people. Holograms they could interact with. And also, I should note, this is similar to a device they showed in Enterprise in the first season, where the episode where Trip gets pregnant, they encounter these aliens who have this technology where they can create scenery with holograms, not people. But that's interesting that they had this in the animated series. But again, this is part of the reason why the animated series isn't really considered canon, because in canon, they don't really have holodecks until Discovery. Oh, whoops. Okay. Discovery takes place way before this, and they have holodecks, but if I recall, that was also holodeck ducked. In fact, if I remember correctly, when the episode of Discovery first aired that showed like they were on the holodeck training and everyone lost their fucking minds, it's breaking canon, it's destroying canon, oh! Because this is 100 years before Next Generation has proven that Next Generation was the first time we see a holodeck technology. And when that happened, I was like, the animated series had holodeck technology, so up yours. So maybe it is considered canon, actually, because if I recall, the Discovery one was also just scenery, so that actually fits with this episode, so there you go. And actually, I noticed that Discovery and Picard had thrown in a few animated series references. So I think they're trying hard to make it canon now, because they want people to watch the show. But so I guess it is canon. This is the first time we see a holodeck type thing, and then the Enterprise plays a practical joke, no horror, and Sulu and McCoy get trapped in the snow when they almost die, which is a bit crazy. I think when the Enterprise is putting people's lives at risk, it is kind of cartoon-like the way that Kirk finally tricks the Enterprise into going back into the clouds. Like, oh no, don't go into the cloud. Like, the way William Shatner acted that and the way it was drawn was actually quite terrible. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, what the fuck is this? And then I realized, oh no, Kirk is just pretending. But he's being so obvious about it. I mean, the Enterprise is an idiot to fall for this. Obviously, he's tricking you to go into the nebula. It's very bad acting by Kirk. Bad acting by Kirk, not necessarily by Shatner, although that's probably the case as well. But it's bad acting by Kirk. The Enterprise shouldn't have fallen for him, but I guess it's not very bright. But, and also, of course, they had the Romulans in this episode where they go into the neutral zone by accident, and the Romulans try to destroy the Enterprise and whatever. I mean, that was a good use. I actually liked this episode. I was surprised because I remember it being dumb because the premise is stupid. But when I allow for the fact that this is a kid's show, it's actually a damn good episode for a cartoon, I gotta say. Anyway, my rating for The Practical Joker out of 10 is a 7. Very good. Anyway, so let me get into the next episode, which is Albatross. I don't remember this episode being good, but I actually liked it when I sit down and look at it again. I think this is benefit from watching the animated series in order. I noticed like the writing has noticeably improved in this episode. This is actually a really well written episode. Now, I think I'm put off by this episode because it's another crew member being accused of a murder they didn't commit, which, goddamn, I mean, to be fair to the animated series, this has only been done twice in Trek before, but there's been so much that's come after it to fucking matter of perspective, that ex post facto and Voyager, which was awful, and so many others. And the original series had Wolf in the Fold and Court Martial, by the way. But so I think this was like a really tired trope I'm so sick of seeing. So I think that's why I was really dismissive of it. But to be fair, most of those episodes are trial episodes, and this isn't a trial episode. Actually, it's with Kirk, and because McCoy is accused of starting a plague on the planet where everyone died, so they're like, you're responsible for killing billions of people. Plus, I gotta mention, by the way, that the way they present this is really dumb or really unbelievable or fake, where Kirk is making relations with these aliens. It's like, oh, we're a good Federation this is great, we had this great meeting. It's implied that this is the end of their meeting and they've met for like hours or whatever. They had a very productive, very interactive, they all liked each other, and Kirk is like, for the beam up, and then the alien's like, wait a second, hold up 1 minute. So Kirk's like, alright, hold on the transporter, and they're like, we're arresting McCoy. I don't buy that. It's like they're gonna talk and have all these friendly relations and wait to the last second, in fact, after Kirk calls for a transport, and go, oh yeah, by the way, this guy's responsible for killing billions of people. You're under arrest. Like, that's a bit silly. But anyway, I do like the rest of the episode is about Kirk. It's not a trial episode. It's about Kirk, like, investigating the planet, and one of those aliens sneaks on board the Enterprise, and Kirk, like, kind of tricks him, although it was a bit cartoonish, but again, this is a cartoon, and so that's okay. And they investigate the planet, and they contract a disease on the Enterprise, and so they all start like dying. And I think this is like, I felt invested. I felt this is like really high stakes. And I really liked how, Spock was the only one who's not affected, because they always have to have one character not be affected. And in original series, it was Spock. Next Generation, it was Data. Deep Space Nine, it was Odo. Voyager was like the Doctor or 7 of 9. Every show has to have one character. I think Enterprise swapped between Phlox and Trip. I'm not Trip, T'Pol. But whatever. Every show has to have their one character that's immune to all the viruses, but whatever. So Spock calls the alien dudes like, our crew's dying, can you release McCoy? And the alien dudes are like, no, you're lying, you're full of shit. How stupid do you think I am? We're not going to release McCoy. And so Spock just like beams down, does the Vulcan nerve punch, and jailbreaks McCoy. And I actually really loved that scene. I thought it was great. And I loved how McCoy actually at first refused to go. He's like, you're breaking the law. What the fuck are you doing? I'm not going with you. And Spock is just like, everyone in the Enterprise is going to die if you don't come with us. He's like, well, why the hell didn't you say so? Like, I actually like that interaction. I think that was great. And McCoy beamed up, and he managed to solve the mystery of the virus, that it was due to like an aurora that happened every 19 years, and it just so happened it was 19 years ago, whatever. And so he determined that was the cause of it in the first place, and in fact McCoy had saved this dude that last time by giving him a vaccine for some other disease, so he realized that that vaccine could cure this disease. And that was great. I actually thought it was a great episode. And when they beamed down the planet, talk to aliens, the aliens like, okay, we're gonna forget the way that you released McCoy from jail because you saved everyone. You found a cure to this disease, and you solved the problem. And Kirk is like, yeah, and we'll forget the fact that one of your people stowed away on our ship. I thought that was great, but they had to go and ruin it with this stupid, end joke they had. They did this in the original series as well, where they had this end joke where they go, ha ha ha, and joke around. I can't even remember what it was in this episode because I was so unimpressed. I think this is one of the worst ones I've ever seen. I was so ridiculously straight-faced when watching that joke. I'm like, oh my god. I wasn't just like, is that supposed to be funny? I'm like, oh my god, this is so stupid. It's like when your dad tells a really, really bad joke, you're just like, oh my god. It was one of the worst. It was one of McCoy being racist towards Spock and you Vulcan suck, blah blah blah. How was McCoy not racist? But anyway, I didn't find it funny. It was dumb. But I really liked this episode. I was surprised because I don't remember it being very good. But it was actually really well written. So my rating for Albatross out of 10 is an 8. Extremely good. Really like this episode. So that is it for my coverage of episodes 3 and 4 of the animated series. I shall be back next month for my final video covering the animated series, where I'll cover the last 2 episodes of the animated series. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. Very much appreciated. We'll see you guys next time.